This is Bart Sharp with Greater Consciousness Through Emotional Transformation with the topic Releasing Anger. I held up this pillow because we're going to use this as a tool to release anger today. Because a lot of times anger is something that we have repressed inside of us and it's just holding there. And it kind of stacks up and builds up and then it becomes rage if a lot of that anger is there. And a lot of people go, well, how do I let go of that type of rageful anger? It's a very visceral process, really. And a good thing to know is to know your stories of why you're angry and hold that stuff. And what I do in my business, Greater Consciousness Through Emotional Transformation, is to energetically release it. But also, there's another technique that I find that's very simple and very effective, and that is screaming into pillows. In other words, getting in touch with my anger, and then when I feel it, releasing it by screaming into this pillow. And it's really quite interesting. I never consider it a really fun activity, but every time I do this, I always feel better. It's a dynamic release. But first you got to kind of know how to do it and what's the difference between getting really mad at somebody and pointing your anger towards them, because that's not what this is about. I've seen people, they would get really mad at somebody, for example, and they would take a hammer and hit rocks. And they're looking at the person that they're really mad at while they're doing that. That's not anger release, that's aggression. And actually you perpetuate the anger more and more because you are taking that energy and you got your hammer and you're hitting and you're extending it out and projecting it. And generally anger doesn't release that away in that type of fashion. Now, if you went up to that person and go, I'm really angry at you because you did this and this and this to me, and and that's how I feel, that would be a release of anger very directly. And somehow that's more effective because you feel like there's a point to it. Whereas if you're hitting a rock, it almost feels pointless. It recycles. If you yell at your dog, because you're mad at your boss, you recycle the anger because it's not really there. If you could go up to your boss and say, I'm really mad at you because I thought you were very belittling to me in the meeting yesterday. And you're right to the point of what it is. That would be a release of anger. In fact, that's why the whole purpose of anger is to get us to take action. The point is somebody that felt belittled by their boss probably has a lot of issues with assertiveness, and that anger is just trying to get them to say, speak up. Stand up for yourself. You'll feel better when you do. However, sometimes it may not be prudent to tell our boss that because we might get fired, and we logically know that. We know the volatile personality of our boss, for example. So we could just be thinking about our boss and letting that anger build inside of us. Like, think of the story and not direct it towards him, but think of how we're feeling and ask, well, where is this located in my body? And really get what that is. And then maybe think of other angry stories related to it. Like, gee, my boss makes me feel the same way I did around my father. And God, I have all of this anger there too. And you just kind of build it and you build it and you build it. And then when we scream in the pillow, you take all of that anger and you visualize it coming out of you, out your mouth, and into the pillow. And it's really cool. So I'm just thinking of all this anger and it's all settling inside of me. And it's building, it's building, it's building. And then I kind of encapsulate it and I let it come out through my voice like that, and it's really invigorating. It's really fun, and I might have to do it 3 or 4 times before it really finally totally releases. But you feel this release and pleasure and a certain pleasurable sensuality about it. Now, why I like a pillow is it kind of keeps it contained. When I did this before as my own personal therapy, I did it in my home where the only person I'd be disturbing is my cat. And it always felt better to scream in a pillow because something about that maybe is more secure, safe, contained. I didn't hear my voice reverberate back into me. It all gets absorbed into the pillow. And something in that is very effective. So when you do this, remember, visualize the anger and you feel the anger as deeply as possible. You don't put a face to it. You're not screaming at anybody. You're feeling anger, and then you allow the scream to come out and the anger to come out with the scream. It's really quite simple, quite effective, quite transformative, and it's done. Something with rage and anger gets released through this technique. So if you have a lot of anger, this is a good one to practice. This is Bart Sharp with Greater Consciousness through Emotional Transformation, saying, let go of your anger. You'll let go of a lot of emotional weight in your body.